You followed this stuff for years and years now, haven't you? And this is, some might say, the moment you might have been waiting for, these first flights finally taking these illegal immigrants, to Rwanda as part of a policy, a government policy on the issue. Is this policy convincing you that this is a way to deal with it?
Well, I've always been supportive ever since the policy was first mooted, when the legislation was being bandied about and there was a consultation to which we, like lots of other people, contributed. Yes, I've always also said, though, that Rwanda on its own will not solve the problem. It has to be part of a wider programme, a wider set of measures that will send the clear message that anyone who seeks to come to this country illegally, as this is, they're setting off in unseaworthy boats from unauthorised embarkation points. It is illegal, for goodness sake. Apart from that, it's risking people's lives. So it's got to stop, and we've got to send the message out to the traffickers, but also to those who are risking their lives to do it, that it won't work. If Rwanda contributes to that message, then I think it will be a good thing and well worth pursuing.
Now, obviously, in my view, the other side of this would be, say, processing centres elsewhere so that people don't have to make the crossing. That's one I'm presuming you would agree with that as part of the policy. But what do you make of the Church of England and other people speaking out, calling it immoral and saying that it's an immoral policy that shames Britain?
Well, I think that's a lot of humbug, frankly, to suggest that what most people in this country want to see happen is somehow immoral. I think that in itself is a wicked thing to say from people like the Archbishop of Canterbury and, dare I say, His Royal Highness as well. I think that they should really take note from some people who know what they're talking about, rather than going on headlines as to what is actually going on. Yes. I disagree with them, and I think most people in this country would disagree with them, and I think it's not worthy of them, frankly.
It's interesting that those two people specifically, Prince Charles, talking about immorality. Let's not mention Camilla and Di, and also the Archbishop and all the scandals that...
Well,
but what
I'm not sure that's this.
But all the scandals that have hit the Church of England as well. I mean, I just think that those people speaking out on it is not helpful.
No, but, it's not helpful. I think it's wrong, and most people in this country would think it's wrong. I believe that, first of all, the flight has to go ahead. That will be, if it doesn't go ahead, it will send all the wrong messages out.
Do you not think there'll be... We've seen these scenes before, sort of people protesting and trying to stop planes from actually taking off. We've seen it before when the government's deporting foreign criminals, for example, and things like that. Isn't there a strong likelihood that actually we're going to see activists on the ground at wherever it is, they'll figure it out somehow, trying to stop this flight taking off?
Well, it's a free country, and we can all protest if we want to. What we mustn't do is prevent the law from being enforced, and that is what is happening. That is wrong, and that should not be allowed to happen. But if people want to protest, of course.
Yeah. What about? Sorry, I just want to ask about what about the Nationality and Borders Bill? I thought there was some provision in it to stop all these repeat appeals that seem to be, prohibiting this process from taking place.
Yeah. Well, it's only just started. We've only just the bill itself, now an act, has just received royal assent. So we haven't got to the stage yet where all that the legislation allows for has been implemented. But it will be, and with a bit of luck, the government really does pursue that line of dealing with the problem.
I just want to raise something which does always seem to be left out of this conversation, which is that France has gotten away with murder almost here because, we'd given them a lot of money to try and sort of stop the crossings from, the people from crossing into the UK in the first place. They've gone up, so that hasn't worked. They now basically have no incentive at all to stop these boats coming across because they know the UK now have a policy and they're going to send them elsewhere. I mean, France, are laughing at us pretty much now, aren't they?
I don't know if they're laughing at us. I think that what they're doing is actually is not in their own interest, frankly. What is happening now is not just France allowing people to make their way illegally into their country, but it's happening at the external borders of the EU. The EU really needs to get a grip. In 2021, there were nearly 240,000 illegal migrants detected coming into the EU, which was something like 90,000 more than it was in 2019, let alone in 2020. So the EU, which pays pots of money to Turkey, for goodness sake, I mean, it's not above them to be pushing people back from Greece, from Italy, as well as paying Turkey billions in order to hang on to migrants, really, asylum seekers, for want of a better word.
What about the UNHCR, though? Because they're backing the moves by the unions and these sort of legal and charities to sort of stop this whole Rwanda policy. And yet other countries have done similar things and they've not said anything about it.
Well, interestingly, there was a photo in the Telegraph, I think, a few days ago, of an area with a lot of migrants, I assume, those who had sought refuge from countries like Burundi and Libya. And looking over and watching over them was someone with a UNHCR high-vis jacket on. I know that the government has, not only the lawyers that the government, high-ranking, really very good lawyers, have looked into all this, but they've been working with the UNHCR all along in order to ensure that the human rights of the people concerned are not in any way being contravened.
Yeah, and that will be why, I suppose, the High Court said this is legal and this can go ahead, and then the Court of Appeal actually reaffirmed.
We need to be a bit careful there, Mercy, because what has happened now, the courts have said that those who are being sent, and what the activists wanted to do was stop the whole flight because it would potentially be against the interests of those being removed. The courts, as I understand it, have said, and I'm not a lawyer, but they have said, no, you haven't made the case for that. But whether the legislation is in line with and doesn't contravene international law, that's still to be decided. As far as I'm concerned, this having gone through our parliament, through our courts, if we think it's okay, then we should surely have the final say as to who can and who cannot enter our country.
Well, I don't see what's wrong with Rwanda. Rwanda seems like an OK place.
Rwanda's a beautiful country.
Exactly, I don't get it.
And we're actually paying people to go there.
Exactly. It makes no sense, but then I suppose a lot of these people have never been there, so they haven't got a clue.
Well, yeah, I did read one of them saying they've never even heard of Rwanda before then and they're awfully terrified about going. But, I think that they'll find that if they arrive there, it's probably not as bad as they think. But it is this case that they do have a patchy human rights record.
Well, that was over a quarter of a century again.
No, but I mean, the current president still has a very patchy record in terms of upholding people's human rights.
Well, our Prime Minister has a very patchy record. I mean, all politicians have patchy records, frankly.
Germany has a patchy record. Russia has a patchy record. They all have a patchy record,
What about the 30,000 who have gone there from Burundi and the 500 or so who've gone from Libya and others who have sought refuge in Rwanda.
All assisted by the UNHCR as well. All assisted by the UNHCR.
And often sometimes praised by the UNHCR. Look, it's complicated, but let us know what you think.
They should be sent to Rwanda.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.